Hey, everybody. Welcome. Um, Tonight we're talking about forgiveness and the concept of forgiving so that you can be forgiven. Um, I'm with Paul and Stephen's Spirit Center, and we use this book a lot when we're talking about our topics. And that's the Gospel According to Spiritism. And um, tonight, the forgiveness topic is from chapter 10, item 14, and that's on forgiving offenses. um, Normally we start with a little prayer meditation. Tonight I'm actually going to just go straight to the Lord's Prayer, which is how we often start. Stick with me to the end if you want to try practicing a little forgiveness thing I just came up with. So if you're with me at the end, that's terrific, and you feel like doing a little visualization exercise. This is a funny topic and funny week for me because I think this topic comes up once a year. And out of the past maybe 9 or 10 years or maybe 9 years since I started helping out with some of the talks for the Spirit Center, I think it's landed on me about 3 or 4 times. And one of the people who's organizing the online talks right now made a little comment about how, well, if something keeps landing on you, then maybe there's a reason for it. This time, though, it's a bit more of a joy. I always used to sort of dread it when it landed on me before because I, like many people, have had junk to forgive for a long time. So this time is a little more exciting because I maybe have some good news to share if I don't forget to say it during the course of discussing this topic. So without further ado, let's relax in our chairs and have a quick opening. Take a few deep breaths in as we all connect together. And open our hearts and minds and thoughts to tonight's topic. We'd like to start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory now and forever. Amen. So, basically, I'm doing the usual thing, which is why don't we just think for a minute about what exactly forgiveness is. And this is not an easy topic for a lot of people, but we'll give it a go. The first thing that comes to mind for many people is letting go of offenses. Another interesting concept I got from all of my wandering around in the topic again is I came across Abraham Hicks, which is really interesting. So it takes things in a little bit different perspective from our gospel book. We learn that if we want to be forgiven for our sins, we need to forgive people their offenses towards us. And an important thing that I maybe missed before from our gospel book is that you need to not think bad thoughts. And this is a part that I missed before, and I'll come more to that later. But try to not be thinking bad thoughts, and try to just focus on doing good and keeping your thoughts towards goodness as opposed to revenge and other negative thoughts that can happen when someone does something to you that's affecting you. But the Abraham Hicks concept was that is letting go of a discordant thought that keeps you separate from your inner being, or your higher self is another word that comes to mind when I think about my inner being. I think the inner being is that seed inside of yourself that kind of knows what's good and what's happy and what's light, and your inner being, I think, naturally avoids darkness and evil deeds and the concept of black and all kinds of unfun stuff. Your inner being ultimately, I think, wants to be happy. But that Abraham Hicks concept of the discordant thought separating you from your higher consciousness, from your higher self, from your inner being is really interesting to me. And another bit about forgiveness is that it's self-healing. It's you working on dealing with the thing that's happened and healing it. After a certain amount of time, you need to grieve or be angry or scared or whatever it is that you're feeling. It's not letting our wounds define who we are. So forgiveness is self-healing. It's freedom. It's actually, in the self-healing, it's freedom from an aspect of life that is pain, to move into an infinite number of aspects of life that are joy and delight and beauty and it's making space in your life for God's life and love and for your own growth. Because if you're filling up all your consciousness with all this negative hurt stuff for too long, you're not going to have any room for all the amazing other aspects that are possible. And I know it's really hard to get that sometimes when you're in the middle of the grief and the trauma and stuff, but hopefully in our continuing through this concept, we'll get to some ideas maybe of just maybe altering our thoughts or trying something new that we hadn't thought of or we hadn't heard of before. So forgiveness is letting go, and not an easy thing to do. And many people can spend years, going through a process of dealing with an injury or a harm that's been done. And some people are faster at it than others. I'm laughing because I finally come to something after 11 years. But anyway, why is forgiveness so important, as I've started to allude to? Part of it that we learn in the gospel, according to Spiritism and other Spiritist works that we use to learn about life and our mission and our purpose and our reason for being and what's going on in the universe, is that forgiveness is part of God's divine plan. And ultimately, we're going to evolve. We're destined to become amazing, evolved beings that are full of love and light, and not be so, mucking around in the mud here, as many of us are, hurting each other and, offending and being offended, sinning and being sinned against, and it's not pretty here, and it's not God's desire for us, but God loves us and gave us free will so that we can, start off like little babies and be naughty and learn from our mistakes and hurt people, and then come to learn that we shouldn't have done that, and then, be sorry eventually, and be hurt, and then and realize that maybe that's not the end of the world eventually, and that ultimately we can come to love ourselves and make space to evolve into what God desires for us and use our free will to get there. So forgiveness is important because we don't want to live in resentment over and over again, but we find ourselves sometimes doing it, and sometimes it lasts a long time, and it kind of works like a negative cycle, where you're hurt and you grieve and you're crying and you can't change those things at the moment that have happened, and then because you're spending so much time there, and this is a concept I was starting to get from Abraham Hicks actually, and finally the gospel, I found a word in the gospel according to Spiritism that's talking about your thought and what you do with your thoughts. You need to keep them focused on good, but the negative cycle is that you're hurt and you keep thinking about that thing over and over, and it just keeps building on itself, and then there's no space inside of you for anything else, and you miss a lot of good stuff because of something that somebody did to you and your inability to figure out how to heal it, and you stay in the negative cycle. Forgiveness is important in relation to breaking our addiction to this negative cycle. This negative cycle is almost comfortable because you want to sit around and cry about the thing that happened, and you feel all these horrible things that keep coming up for you. Disgust with yourself because of something that happened to you, or grief over the loss of something that somebody took, or something they did to you, the loss of your childhood because you were bashed over the head too often, or something, but sometimes we stay in this for a long time and it becomes comfortable, and it takes some effort to start opening up and trying to shift our focus to somewhere else, and we hang on to this comfortable level of sadness, and we complain about it to other people, or we keep it hidden inside ourselves and just live in that grief alone. But forgiveness is important because we ultimately will be compelled by the law of progress to get out of it. God's law of progress, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, but ultimately you will need to break the cycle of addiction and the comfort level that you feel in crying and wondering why me and all that stuff. And also, forgiveness is important because you're making yourself sick. You're making yourself sick. You're by not figuring out how to heal from the injuries that have been done to you. It makes your life even worse, which is another negative cycle. And there were a couple of things that you all may be familiar with. One was Buddha saying that being angry and holding resentment is like holding a hot coal in your hand, and you're going to throw it at the person you're angry with, but before that's even happened, you have burned your hand. And the other one you've probably heard lots, and I don't know if there's an origin where it came from, but it's like holding resentment for things that have been done to you, or anger is like drinking poison drinking poison that's going to injure you and hoping that it will kill the person you're angry with. But what you've really done is they're not thinking about you. They maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. That's not going to be the point of this tonight, but you've injured yourself. So forgiveness is like, if we can talk about how to get there, forgiveness is it's like medicine for the poison you've been taking and ingesting and lingering in the negativity that goes with, wallowing in the things that have happened to you usually as a result of what other people have done to you. So forgiveness is super important for a whole lot of reasons. And so there are all kinds of reasons to figure out how to get there. And take it easy on yourself, because some things are so horrific that if you're still dealing with the feelings, like sometimes you need a little bit of time to just be with that, and that's okay. And then it's when it starts going on a little bit too long, you want to start, hopefully people around you or whatever will offer you suggestions or ideas to sort of kickstart your brain and start working on ways to get out or to heal it. But the next concept is the one that this subject is about, is forgive to be forgiven. And of course, I'm not talking about little things. I think this chapter is about massive, big hurts that people do to each other, Okay, the first and most horrific one that always comes to my mind is child sexual abuse. Physical abuse of children, physical abuse of anybody, physical abuse, sexual abuse of people in general, particularly children, because they don't have any understanding yet, of what's going on, and all they know is they're being hurt, but they don't know what's normal until they get older, and it's just really sad. So, and then there's, let's see, people breaking their promises, or parents and children being separated for whatever reason. Of course, the one that comes to my mind is divorce and custody, and the ensuing results there. And other things. People have been put in prison unfairly. Maybe your fortune has been stolen despicably by somebody else, and you just can't get over it because you're not used to that, and you haven't figured out how to heal and start over again or live in a different way. So we're talking about big stuff here. And forgive to be forgiven. We're taught that, there's a rule about it. If you forgive, then God forgives you, or you will be forgiven. How can you be forgiven if you don't forgive other people? And since we're talking about these big things, I don't think God's going to come down on you for not forgiving somebody for doing a horrific thing to you. I believe you're going to do that, or we're going to do that to ourselves. We're going to do that just fine on our own, with this whole over and over and over again, and ruining our lives without being able to get outside of that blackness. And until we're ready to stop, until we're ready. And I don't think it's God that's going to come down on us. I think it's us. It's our lack of forgiving, lack of being ready to step outside of that, and letting go. Ultimately, forgiving is self-healing and letting go, and that is equivalent to being forgiven. and your freedom. So if you can self-heal and let go, then that leads to uh, your freedom. You will be forgiven in the sense that you're free to become more of who you really are instead of under this dark, dismal cloud. And in a sense, and this might be a little bit hard for some people who aren't ready for it, but in a sense, it's almost a negative thing that you're doing to yourself and to the people around you by living in your resentment for too long. So really you're withholding the goodness you can do for yourself and for other people. But if you don't get on to seeking a way to heal from the things, whatever it is that's been done to you, that's caused you the grief and the sadness and the trauma. So how can we achieve forgiveness? Now this is one that's was really is important because a lot of people say, you've got to forgive. You've got to forgive to be forgiven. It's a rule. You need to be good. You got to be good and forgive. And some people just aren't ready, and they need to feel their pain. And and then when they are ready and they're tired of living in this, they can't find the how to. It's a little bit hard to find the how to, and it, it's an individual thing, you know. Um, it's not easy. You have to be ready. You have to be tired of the way things are going, and you have to seek it out. Sometimes you'll get lucky, and some people might suggest some things to you that maybe work. And sometimes they suggest things to you, and you're just still in it. You're still in the junk, and you're not ready. And you try this stuff, and it seems silly. Well, that's apparently not the time or the thing, and it just wasn't your for you. Um, I can say some things that may help you, but I still think it's an individual thing, and your time may be shorter or longer than other people's time, and your method, what works for you, may be different to what works for other people. And so, in that vein, um, I could suggest reading spiritual material. That didn't work for me, but it might work for you. Pray. Pray hard. I've been praying for 11 years and reading spiritual material for 11 years. It didn't work for me, but it does work for other people. Um, Focusing on good things and dreams until it replaces the pain. Until it replaces the pain. Yeah, visualizing can help. And, maybe there are different types of visualization exercises that might work for you. Uh, Reading, seeking out things on the internet. Seriously, there is a lot of stuff out there. I had no idea. And maybe I was so stubborn and stuck in my thing that I wasn't seeking exactly, Googling forgiveness. There is a lot of stuff out there that's really interesting and might resonate with you. So one of the things is that people have trouble finding the how-tos, and I'm trying to suggest some things, and maybe none of these will work for you yet because you're not ready, but something may happen sometime. Meditation, if I didn't mention that already, is a possibility. You might be actually able to concentrate and meditate and have an epiphany that lets you see things, see that one thing that happened is not all that's that makes you who you are. There's so much more to life, Um, the thing that worked for me finally was a gratitude practice. Holy cow, I had no idea. 11 years, and a friend from Brazil finally sent me an invitation to a gratitude group that goes practices for about 4 weeks, and that was cool. It was in Portuguese, and I had to translate it to English, but I'm sure there's other stuff out there, gratitude groups and stuff. I mean, for me, that's what worked for me. All of a sudden, I'm doing this thing second time through, halfway through the second time, and it just so happens to be coinciding at the time when we're talking about forgiveness here. Um, I wasn't even trying to practice forgiveness. I just started focusing on all the good things and following the exercises and everything. And it filled up all my space and totally took my focus away from the crazy COVID fights over the stuff happening still. My situation is an ongoing situation that I have to forgive, and a little unusual that way because we're tied together by a child. But anyway, um, I filled up all my space with gratitude, and I got all these great new ideas. I'm on a roll, you know. COVID isolation is not fun for the world, but I'm making use of the time, you know, and I've filled up all of my senses and all of my everything with gratitude practices and big dreams. I'm playing the guitar, I'm harvesting seeds, I'm exercising, I'm building a big dream now that I had forgotten about because of all of this misery and lack of forgiveness. So now all of a sudden I realized this week that I wasn't attached to what was going on anymore. My daughter, she's okay. She goes between both houses. We're happy. I mean, we're happy when we're together. She's doing good things. We talk every day. The things that are still going on with the other person, I feel detached from. Let's see how long I can keep it up, but I'm going to keep up the gratitude practice. And because that seems to be the thing that's working for me finally, you know, is what can I get myself positioned to do that's amazing and creative and will help people? And so that's like all of a sudden I find myself sitting here thinking, I'm doing my gratitude practice second time around, and I have a big vision of having a hug with the person who and the people who do the things that are sometimes unforgivable in my perception. And and that's pretty wonderful. Anyway, so that was what was working for me. Here's some examples from some other people I came across. Marin, Steps to Forgiveness. For her, she was just dealing with the hurt, it looks like. And she's got go through the hurt and the pain. These are steps. You can maybe use them. Then you have to deal with the resentment and the pain, and because you're causing yourself harm. Maybe you do this with a counselor, a therapy. Um, and for her step 3 is learn how to set boundaries. Her step 4 is learn how to keep practicing keeping those boundaries. And basically that's saying no to all the pushy people or the manipulators, the people in your life who want to take from you or do things to you. You just say no, no, no. That's her thing. And then finally, step number 5 is forgiving. She hasn't really got any steps to forgiving quite yet that I could make out. Dolph Lundgren. Oh, and this woman, Marion, she was beat up by her dad as a kid, and she had to go through a huge process, and now she's doing good things, trying to help other people forgive. That Dolph Lundgren, he used, for him to get over it, he used meditation and therapy, like counseling. But then his next step was realizing that he had hurt other people and going to those people he'd hurt in his life and asking for forgiveness and having these great talks with them and finding out, healing with them. And in the process, like me with my gratitude, he didn't even get to that point. He just turned around and realized he'd already forgiven it's like he was so busy with his self-healing, he'd already forgiven his dad and his dad for what he did and his mom for what she didn't do. Sarah Montana, Dolph Lundgren is now then realized when he was feeling better that there were lots of other people around him who weren't feeling so good and he wanted to help them. So now he is doing work helping others after recovering from his abuse. He's now helping an organization that tries to stop slavery and human trafficking. And he's really fulfilled in his life doing this. Sarah Montana did some other interesting things. She had the brother of a friend shot and killed her brother and her mother, and this defined her for a little while. It completely changed her her life, so some of the things she did were to come to to be able to forgive was to look at where the 17-year-old boy was, in prison and see how that prison situation was for him, and realized it was one of the most horrific places a person could be, in prison. And she came, instead of seeing him as the face of evil, she said, she came to see him as a person. And then she realized that in order to keep her mother and brother alive in her world and with her, somehow she wrapped them up with the murderer. And she realized that the price was too high, how it was ruining her life, and she realized she had to let it go. And she wrote him a letter, so saying basically something amazing. Let me see. The concept was, she was saying, I forgive you, but I don't need anything from you. I don't need a reply. I don't need anything, but I don't need you, and I don't need this thing between us anymore. So she put the letter in the mailbox, and all of a sudden, she says, she came back to herself. Her inner being was able to get through to her, and she was able to find out who she was without all of that lack of forgiveness. So she was ultimately forgiven in freedom when she finally let go and was able to forgive. And the idea she said before we wind up is, which I thought was really interesting. She said, it's like when you say, I forgive you, what you're really saying is, I know what you did and it's not okay. But I recognize that you are more than that. I don't want to hold us captive to this thing anymore. And I can heal myself, and I don't need anything from you. So I thought that was pretty wild. So what this is about is not, forgiveness is not about trying either to get something from the person that you're forgiving. You can't. This has to be completely separate from trying to get something from them. This is all about you, your inner being, and your experiences, and your path to healing. Anyway, so there was some really excellent stuff. If you are struggling, hopefully you can skip the 11 years that I went through and just go straight to Googling stuff that might help you. Something will help you when you've had a little bit of grieving time and you're ready to try to change it, to heal the wound. You still have the scars, you still have the story, but then you want to open up so you can focus on all the other amazing things that are possible to do in life for yourself and for the people around you. Anyway, Abraham Hicks, Eckhart Tolle, there's a lot of good stuff out there, so go check it out. And right now we'll just do a really quick meditation for anybody who's stuck with us. I'm just going to try this thing out with you. It's a little bit of a visualization practice, and then we'll also wind up the night. Thank you. So let's all just close our eyes. Imagine a big ball of light above your head, filled with starlight from the universe, God's light. Feel it coming down through your head. Feel it filling up your mind. Taking deep breaths as you go. Feel it coming down through your throat and into the trunk of your body, and also out through your arms and your hands. As it passes your heart, you feel your heart warm up and tingling with light and love, and see the light going all the way down through your legs and down through your feet into the ground. And just for a moment, picture a ball of light in front of you. And if you feel you can, think back to all the things that may have occurred to you and all the feelings you have surrounding this thing if you're having trouble forgiving. It might be hate, anger, it might be self-loathing, it might be fear. Just take each one and place it mentally inside this ball of light in front of you and let it rest there. The anger, the hate, the resentment, the self-loathing, the fear, each one going into the ball of light. When you've done this, see the ball shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller. And all the things you've put in the ball are getting smaller and smaller until the ball is finally so small. And mentally send it away, off into the sky till it's so far away you can see it's completely disappeared. And as you breathe, feel your heart filling up with light and love, care. Feel kindness directed towards you, compassion and love coming. Maybe you couldn't feel before. Feel your heart filling full and swelling with new feelings of possibility. Say hello to yourself. Just enjoy that. See where it can take you. As we're all connected here this evening, I'd like to also have us thinking of our energy going out into the world and being used where it's needed to help healing during this pandemic, for all the direct and indirect ways that it's affecting the world. Please take this feeling with you as you go through the rest of your weekend and into your week. We thank you, God, and Jesus, and our guardian angels for helping us in this moment. And thank you for the food for thought we've had on the concept of forgiveness and forgiving, to be forgiven, self-healing, and being free in light and love. Thank you so much. Amen. Take care, everybody. Yeah, if you have any questions about anything, there's a whole lot of people at the Paula Stevens Spiritist Center who'd be happy to chat with you or give you more information. You can find them on the Facebook page. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you. Have a great night.